On today's show, it's our good friend and Senators Senior VP of Hockey Operations, Dave Poulin.
Pouly tells us about why this team was able to take a big step last season, behind the scenes of a chaotic trade deadline, and more.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Today is Monday, August 4th, and Pilsy, I couldn't ask for a better birthday. Bringing the baby to Ottawa for the very first time.
Yeah, happy birthday to you, buddy. First birthday as a father?
Yes, correct.
Yes, all right. I'm not sure if that's a monumental moment, but that just clicked for me.
I think it means that your birthday no longer matters.
Yeah, unless you're Brady Tkachuk and your birthday is on the same day as your kid. Then,
yes.
Then you still get a bit of that squeeze. But that's awesome. I'm glad you get to go back home to the nation's capital. If anyone wants a guided tour of the city of Ottawa, just let Ross know. Every time we're in Ottawa, I get the full guided tour. If you look on your right, here you'll see and et cetera,
oh, yeah,
and et cetera.
I knew where you wanted to go with that. We're not going there.
No, I was gonna. Yeah, I'll let
you know what I'm talking
about. Yeah, exactly. But yes, this guy loves the city of Ottawa, so I'm glad you get a birthday wish granted there going home.
Yeah, that said, if you do have any recommendations, because I have never been in Ottawa with an 8-month-old baby, if there's anything that I need to do,
I got one.
Let me know. What's that?
You got to take Lily to the GLEBE Central Pub.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, get some chicken wings into her. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, if maybe you'll run into Pouly while you're there.
I thought you were going to say take her to the CTC.
For the home opener. I think her first visit there should be the home opener.
It can't be in the summer. Yes. For sure. I think we're going to do Omega Park. It's like a drive-through thing where there's all sorts of animals. You feed them out the window, that sort of thing. It's in Montebello, so about an hour away. Obviously, we'll go see the sights and sounds, go see the changing of the guard, something I loved back in the day, and walk around the Governor General's. And yes, I will be stopping by the GCP while I'm in Ottawa. No doubt about that. It felt weird saying on the outskirts of enemy territory because we are pre-recording this. Just had a great chat with Pouly flying to Ottawa 2 days ago from when you're listening to this, but tomorrow morning. So no Sens news is allowed over the weekend because to have the Senior VP of Hockey Ops on the show and then have news come out before it drops, we're taking a bit of a risk here, but we figure this is the time of year to do it. And Pouly does say when the calendar changes to August, it's curtains are down, but there's lots of movement going on behind the scenes getting ready for the season. So, man, it feels like hockey's around the corner. I'm looking forward to it.
The countdown to the countdown is on. And like Pouly mentions, it's kind of like August comes around. You're like, oh, who's trickling in? What are we getting going? How are we starting? What should I be doing? So things like that. And we've been doing that on our side. We've been organizing our calendar to make sure we've got all our ducks in a row and all the annual events that we like to do, like the organizational value rankings. We have our list. Go check out our Patreon where we organize the list. You can see behind the scenes of how we do it, but we've organized each day which players we're going to be talking about, and we're fired up for that.
Yeah, an interview season will continue on Wednesday and next Monday, potentially the following Wednesday as well. Still working to line something up, but you will hear from Jabril Toure and Javon Moore as we finish off our Senators prospect series from this offseason where we've chatted with just about everyone. It's been an awesome audit, I would say, on how great the personalities are of these kids. We've gone to Sweden like 14 times, it feels like.
Yeah, seriously. We got to get boots on the ground there eventually.
Yeah, hey, trip to Sweden. We missed out on the one where the Sens actually played there.
Yeah. If it happens again, which I'm sure it will, I feel like no matter what, even if there's not that big of a Swedish presence, the Ottawa Senators are always a team that's connected to Sweden.
Yeah, I'd like to see Germany, right? Timmy?
dude, as a German guy here, I would love to do that as well.
Edmonton versus Ottawa in Germany,
or even Detroit.
Okay, yeah, put that on our calendar. Why don't you?
Will do. Yeah. After I go see the Barrie Colts and the Wisconsin Badgers, I'll make sure to add seeing the Sens play in Germany to the list.
Okay, well, hey, we're going to have to wait for that. You don't have to wait for Dave Poulin, though. Coming up right now, here's our conversation with the Senators Vice President, Senior Vice President of Hockey Operations, Dave Poulin.
Big fancy title.
It is a big fancy title. It's our friend of the show, the Senior VP of Hockey Operations with the Ottawa Senators, a 5-time recurring guest, and we're just about at the 5-year anniversary of his first appearance. It's Dave Poulin. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing, man?
Doing great, gentlemen. I'm in my summer mode, golf shirt on, and beautiful sunny day. Absolutely gorgeous. It was crisp this morning. I was out doing a little plant watering this morning, and I got the weed whacker out and did some trimming by the pond, and it's a beautiful way to start a weekend.
Well, let's get an even bigger tire pump in here, because usually when we have first-time guests, second-time guests, we go through all their accomplishments. You don't need an introduction, but we do like to put Pilsy on the spot with some trivia. Pilsy, can you name at least how many, but the names of the players with more shorthanded goals in NHL history than our guest today, Dave Poulin? It might be the most impressive list of all time.
I'm going to start with Wayne Gretzky.
You got it. Number one.
Okay.
You're already struggling.
Ovi scored the most goals in history, so I'm going to guess him.
Not even close. No. I will complete the list for you because I know you struggle, but you did hit the first one. Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Steve Yzerman, Mario Lemieux, and the gentleman right here, Dave Poulin.
Nice.
That's a decent top 5 to be a part of, eh, Pouly?
It's almost like the kids show. Which one of these does not look like the others? So here's the real trivia question. I wonder how many of my shorthanded goals were against one of those 4 guys when they were on the power play, which I never was.
Fair. Well, hey, with Brad Marchand signing a long-term extension, you're looking over your shoulder too. He's only 3 behind you.
He's coming hard. That's a list I'm really proud of. And I think percentage-wise, I had mine is I think close to 20% of my total goal outputs were shorthanded, which is crazy.
Wow.
A really crazy number. And I wasn't a power play guy. I knew that. And I was a first-line center in Philadelphia my first couple of years just because there was no one else. But I still wasn't on the power play. So I was literally on the first line and wasn't on the power play. But I found my role as a penalty killer, and Brian Propp and I. And the key to that, guys, is something that you'd love to develop with the Sens. And that's 2 defensemen who can both go shorthanded. And it would be almost as if you were playing Sanderson and Chabot both shorthanded, and we were Mark Howe and the dearly beloved, Brad McCrimmon. And the key was either one could go. Very often it's like, okay, well, you got to watch that guy. But from a standpoint of go, we ended up with more 3-on-1s than anybody. And because each one of those defensemen was so talented, as our 2 guys are. And so from a role killing, they both thrived coming from behind on that. And that was the key to it.
Well, and is that something, Pouly, that maybe you could talk to a guy like Shane Pinto about? Because Pinto is a guy that we know he's got the goal scoring acumen in him. And we've heard that he's kind of had conversations with Travis Green, like, hey, I want to be on the power play here. I want a little bit more time. And Travis Green has kind of told him, hey, you're doing a really good job as a third line checking center. You're going to find your ways to get points. We value you, even though we're not necessarily giving you power play time. And you're not getting those opportunities. Like, is that a conversation where you could talk to Pinto and be like, hey, look, I found a way to do it shorthanded, and we know Shane Pinto can do it shorthanded as well. He scored a couple really nice shorthanded goals.
Last game we were at together, Pilsy, he opened the scoring shorthanded.
I may have already had that conversation, Brandon.
There we go.
Hey, Pilsy, the junior VP of hockey ops right here. You might have a new guy in the mix, but how proud are you then of the Ottawa Senators this past season, taking a page out of your book, 9 shorthanded goals, including 2 on 1 penalty kill against Washington in the middle of the season. That was good for 6th in the league in offense shorthanded.
I just love the whole concept of it, because the minute the other team got a power play, the first thing they said on their bench was, we got to be careful here.
Yeah.
And so before the penalty kill started or the puck was dropped, you'd already scored a point, essentially, in the fact that they were going to be a little bit more cautious and aware of where you were on the ice. And, and then when scoring chances happen during a game shorthanded, it takes a little bite out of the power play. It just does. And you've got to be aware. You've got to be conscious of what the other team is doing. And so I absolutely love it. And by the way, I played for some teams that did take their share of penalties in both Philadelphia and Boston. So I had lots of opportunity. I did have lots of opportunity to get on the ice shorthanded. And you want to be aggressive. You want to be able to kill a penalty. You want to be able to be on your toes when you're doing it. And I think with the group that we have, the makeup is there.
Let's take a look at this season as a whole, Pouly, because Ottawa Senators fans have been starved of playoff hockey for years. Ross and I had done over 1,000 episodes and not covered a single playoff game. And finally, this year it happens. Just in your opinion, what was the big shift, or what can you kind of nod to that changed this year that allowed this group to make it to the postseason?
I believe it's the growth of the core group. And there's been so much talk about this core and the age they're at, and still, the 22s and 23-year-olds that are still in it. And if you look at, I believe there was a stat on Florida this year, and and the comparative ages of 29, 30, 31, 32, and some of it is just experience. And I think as our guys, 13 of our 20 skaters in that first game against Toronto were playing in their first playoff game. And so that's the playoff part. But during the regular season, I think you're seeing improvement in the individuals. And that's where the team is getting better. Individuals don't get better, the team's not going to get better. And I think we have a hungry group. I think we have a talented group. And I think we have the right mix as well. And that was something that, and just point to one move that Steve Staios made, and that was the Nick Jensen trade. And when you saw it happen, Nick Jensen, a 3rd rounder, came in for Jacob Chychrun, and we had 2 left shot defensemen who were both on long-term contracts at significant numbers. He was going to be due that contract at the end of the year. But we looked at the piece we brought in Nick Jensen and the complement potential that he had with Thomas Chabot. And so that's not just getting Nick Jensen in the trade. That's getting a different Thomas Chabot, who took his game to a different level this year. And the upside there is still ahead of him. And so those are the types of moves when you're talking about building a team. I think that is Steve's strength, is the components of a team, what makes it go together. Because you'll get, somebody will become available and word will be out that, X player is available from such and such a team. We evaluate every single one of those with our management group. I mean, it goes to every single guy. It's okay, how does this fit with the Ottawa Senators and what we're trying to do? And that's where you've got to look at what you have, and you've got to look at how the pieces may be complementary to that. And that was the Nick Jensen move, in a nutshell. And so each move that we've made, you look at not only what that player brings, but how he fits with the Sens and who he makes better. Because on an incremental basis, if you can bring a player in and he makes his wingers 10% better, then you've made a good trade. And I think that points to the way we're trying to build this hockey club.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and vacations, it's easy to lose track, but that's where Monarch Money comes in. They're your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Guys, Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, so much more. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, all your investments, and all your spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building that wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, just use Monarch Money to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all that stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub, where you might find me this week at 779 Bank Street. I head there because the vibes are free at the GCP, and I know I'm going to get great food, awesome service, and plenty of extracurriculars. What am I talking about? Well, there's something going on pretty much every night at the GCP, from wing nights every Monday, all day and all night, then trivia night on Tuesday, where you can bring your crew and put all your knowledge to the test. Wednesdays, it's open mic night. So whether you want to just sit back and enjoy the show or get up there and play or sing, it's a great way to celebrate Hump Day. Thursdays are all about cheap tacos, and my favorite, every Saturday night, live music with absolutely no cover. So head to the place where the vibes are free. It's the GCP at 779 Bank Street, and we're gearing up. They're the spot for Senator shuttles to and from the CTC. So make sure you head there today at 779 Bank Street and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. Were you guys at all rattled as we were? Admittedly, after the Vancouver game, you guys have won 8 of your first 20 games. I think it was 5 straight losses there. It all turned around, really, November 25th against the Calgary Flames. But there were some times there where the questions were starting to come out. It was November again. That was a month that has been an issue for this team in years past. Like, how did you guys, whether it was internally in the management or whether you're addressing the players, or how you were able to pull yourselves out of that? Because from November 25th on, it was a top 10 team in the league.
Well, Ross, I think a lot of the credit there has to go to the coaching staff and Travis Green in particular, and then wind that into his relationship with Steve and the confidence and trust they have in each other. And at that point, you've got a brand new coach still. He's, odd 20 games into his tenure with the Ottawa Senators. He's learning the group. The group is learning him. And it's up to management at that point and Steve Staios to say, I see enough. I like what I see. I mean, we're going in the right direction. And that was the key at that point. And I think the confidence and the patience, and we have this term in the office, how do we accelerate patience?
Yep. We love that one.
I wrote it down on my lineup when you told us that last time, Pouly. I love
putting those words together. I really do. And that's what we're trying to do. And so at that point, if you like what you see and you think you're still going in the right direction, the results weren't there, but the process has to continue. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Pilsy would have been fired from junior VP of hockey ops in the postcast after the Vancouver game.
Yeah, I was a little nervous. Not gonna lie.
The panic button was on the table.
Okay,
and now he doesn't even know where.
Maybe some of the other junior VPs around the league were calling him, trying to make deals and get up his best players.
But Pouly, I will say, to my credit to me, I brought the panic button out, but I did not press it. I had hundreds of Sens fans being like, Pilsy is out of his mind, not panicking. We all need to panic. They need to blow the whole thing up. And I said, I'm worried, but they can find a way here. So I just like to throw that.
Where's the panic button right now?
I threw it over behind my cabinet when they made the playoffs. So it's collecting dust now.
Nice. Unplug it.
Yeah, it's off. I got it off. Yeah.
Are there batteries in it?
There's batteries in it. So
battery plan for sure.
It's like it's off. Yeah.
Another great thing that you said there, Pouly, was throughout the course of the summer, accelerating patience is great, but something that came out, it was you addressing season ticket holders before the draft party, and you were saying every pick that's made tonight, I'm thinking, how does this affect the Ottawa Senators? What was draft night like? Decentralized at the CTC? What was the whole experience?
It's, somehow you'd like to combine the two. You're more comfortable at home. You just are. You're in your building. You've got your office. You've got everything. You've got your own internal workroom with your board, with all the names of all the players in the league on that board. where you can, so from that comfort standpoint, that's great. You'd like to take that room and take it to a location where you could have a draft with everyone in it. I'm still a little old school in that. I think the conversations that go on, I just think back to my first draft with the Ottawa Senators in Vegas, and you think of the conversations you have through the week, the morning coffees you have with agents, bumping into people in the hallways, conversations with guys and other teams that are in your roles, just casual conversations with Chicago Blackhawks because their meeting room was right across the hall from ours, or things like that. I would like that. I really do think that's important. I think the league is going to try it again. It sounds like in the same decentralized manner, and that's fine. And we'll get better at it. They'll work out the technical issues and things like that. But the first time, you get through it. I think the communication has to be really crisp on your side, and it was with our staff and with Steve. And no better expression of that than the trade we were able to make in the first round, to free up an asset that we didn't have in order to spur the Jordan Spence trade. And that was, just the work that goes into that and the setting up of that, may have been easier face to face. It may have been more difficult on the draft floor, to communicate with 6 or 7 different teams that were behind you at the same time.
Now, I want to go to the trade deadline, Pouly, because at that point, the Ottawa Senators are in the hunt. They're in the mix. And the trade deadline often can be a message to teams and fan bases like, hey, we're going for it here. Or sometimes the message is, you guys have earned reinforcements, and we're going to give you guys some help to make the push to make it to the playoffs. Now, this trade deadline for the Ottawa Senators was a massive one. Like, you start off the day with trading in a package Josh Norris for Dylan Cousins and other pieces going there. But that's a huge deal to happen mid-season. Young guys with term on their contract. And then I believe it was with 37 seconds left, you're able to pull off the Zetterlund deal. Like, just tell us about how wild that day was and what were the goals of that day, and were you able to meet them in your eyes?
As hard as it is to suggest this, you'd like to do things on your terms. So you want to make deals, but you want to make them on your terms. And you have to keep that in the back of your mind the whole time. And we talked about a number of different things, and we digest everything, and we, regurgitate it and throw it around the room and let it bounce off the walls. And I think the focus through the first day to the second day moved to Dylan Cousins. And when Steve walked in first thing in the morning, and it is first thing, the conversation became, okay, how do we complete the Dylan Cousins trade? And even coming into this year, guys, to think that, okay, we've made some moves, Jordan Spence and Lars Eller, and from that standpoint, it looks like, okay, well, those are significant moves, but not major moves. But you have to tie in those 2 moves that you just discussed in Dylan Cousins and Fabian Zetterlund, because that was with, less than 20 games left in the year. And so we haven't seen that whole team together yet. And we haven't seen that whole team with the comfort of being there. And I've been traded, guys, and it takes time. It just does. And you come into a new environment, and you're trying to think, if you're Fabian, okay, what did I do in San Jose that worked? How do they play here? And you've got a coach who's demanding that you do certain things defensively that you weren't asked to do before. It's not that you can't do them, you just weren't asked to do them before. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is this is the first time we'll see this whole team together. That's the exciting part for me. But that day was particularly the second trade, because we had visited a Zetterlund situation which encompassed different pieces. And so the ability to regenerate that conversation as late in the day as Steve did was remarkable. And that's where all of the groundwork you do beforehand, all of the, like, sometimes it's like, what have you got going today? And he'll say, I got to make my calls. And those are calls you're making. You're like, okay, why would you be calling that team in January? And because a name will come up and you'll remember it. And then he'll come into my office and say, hey, you know what name came up today for the first time? And I'll say, really? And what are they looking for? And he'll say, well, they don't know and we don't know. But the name came up. And that's where keeping track of all of those things, I think, is another one of Steve's strengths, because he'll say, I had a conversation in January or late January, and, walking down the hallway and bumped into this general manager, and he said, hey, if you're ever looking to move that player here, all those conversations happen, and they have to be filed and, in your mind. I mean, you've got the ultimate file drawer in your mind, and you've got all these names. And so he then turned the focus after the Cousins trade was done to Zetterlund, knowing that time was running out. And, and the name that they then changed their focus to was the Stopchuk. We had no interest in moving Zach Stopchuk. We just didn't. And then we had to reevaluate that and saying, okay, well, potentially to get a top 9 winger, and with this potential at this age, and move him. And so you're looking at the two different things, because we thought, for the next 10 to 12 years, Zach could have been our 4th line center. But would that be where he topped out? And we were dealing from strength there. Ridley Gregg still potentially is a centerman. You've got Shane Pinto. You had Dylan Cousins. And that trade allows a little bit more of the next trade, So, just in how you're set up down the middle now. And so I think that those two moves, the patience coming down at the end is really tight, because that clock is ticking, and everyone in the room has to be on board, because everyone in the room has a role in that deal. Who's on the phone with the league, and what's Tim Patterson's role, what's Sean Tierney's role at that point, where's Robbie DeMaio kick in at that point, and Steve's running the show, and each one and everyone has a role at that time.
This might be a better question for Steve, but we did hear that it was a very consistent stream of phone calls going to San Jose. You guys wanted Fabian Zetterlund once that became a target. Like, is this double-digit phone calls on trade deadline day, or did you just know that the potential was there and then revisit it late in the day?
I think the key is the consistency of those calls, not right all at the last minute.
Yeah.
It has to be over time. And, and that's the health of having relationships around the league. And just by human nature, you have different relationships with different guys. You just do.
They played together in Edmonton, right? Mike Greer and Steos?
They did.
Yeah.
And, and I think, Steve has relationships with guys he played with in world championships and won gold medals with in world championships. Just different things along the way that if you don't build a relationship in a day, you don't build a reputation in a day. And when you have a reputation as a straight shooter who is very clear and, and has transparency, and there's a reason that teams make trades. You'll see, over time, say, if you really dig down, well, that team has made 3 significant deals over time. Why? Because the general managers understand, are on the same wavelength. And so I think it's a credit to the consistency of those phone calls over time rather than a late barrage.
Well, it leads in perfectly then, because speaking of connections, it felt like for a while that Steve Staios was being groomed into the next general manager in Edmonton under Ken Holland, and they combined for that Jordan Spence trade. Can you take us through how Spence became an Ottawa Senator? Did it really come down to getting that 3rd round pick the night before?
There was a different way to do it. It didn't have to be that pick, but that pick enabled that exact deal to be made. There were ways to avenue that.
Yeah.
We could have changed gears and avenued it a different way. That happened to end up being a perfect way.
It looked real good on paper.
It did, but when you get to that point at 20, you have to have 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, whatever combination of those stacked up. And you have to have confidence that the player that you want is still going to be there. And that goes to Donnie Boyd and our amateur staff. You have to be confident that, Logan Hensler's still going to be there at that point. And so that's part one. And then part two is stacking the other ones. And would that be available? But it is no question a relationship, with Ken Holland that Steve has that is helpful in that situation. But Ken Holland's going to make the best deal for the LA Kings.
What, you can't just ask to throw in Kopitar? Come on, 50% retain?
Yeah, exactly. He's going to make that deal for the Kings. But, then you get into pieces where, okay, well, then it goes to Dale McTavish, our Western scout, and says, okay, when Drew Doughty came back, what role was Spence playing before that? What role did he play after it? Where does Brent Clark fit in pushing out Jordan Spence out of that exact role? So that's where the individual pro scouts guys become really important. They have to know their teams inside out and all the mechanisms of their teams, what the options are. He has 1 year left on his deal. It's at a very workable number. He's 24 years old. We love the combination he brings, all those different things. How does he fit here? Where does he fit here? And so all of those conversations were had. Steve was comfortable. And then while that piece looks perfect on paper, it didn't have to be that exact piece.
Now, we talked about how some of the big additions at the deadline are going to play a big role this year because they're going to be coming in, starting camp, starting the whole year, not coming in mid-season. And we talked about how maybe the Sens didn't make the biggest splashes on free agency day. But Pouly, when you're in an offseason like this, where your team has taken a step, certainly, in their progression, how do you judge the dynamic of, okay, do we need to make changes here to elevate this group even more? Or could changes potentially hurt this group because we really like what we've got here? And like you said, a big reason for that growth was the core growing, and you don't want to mess with a good thing too much. Like, how do you decide what change is good change and where you just need to leave things be and let them grow?
It really points to your own internal development. We talk about development a lot. And when we think about development, we think of, okay, draft and develop. But what can we take with that development group internally? And so the hiring of Sam Gagne as our director of development, I think, is a significant one. As well, guys, Andrew Gordon, who'd been a part-time amateur scout on the East Coast, has more of an active role in development now. And so we're not only looking at development as our draft players, who are in 4 of them at the University of Wisconsin and then spread around in various places around North America and Europe. We're looking at the draft and development within our own organization in Belleville. And we're looking at Stephen Halliday, and we're looking at Donovan Sabrango, and we're looking at, those players and saying, okay, who's going to elevate within that group, with Sam and Andrew being involved there, as well as our staff in Belleville. And so, Dylan Cousins is a great example of that. He's spending his summer down in Ontario and working with Sam Gagne, at the summer development camp that Sam runs in the Muskokas. And so you're looking at that individual and saying, okay, where is he going to be? Where's his game going to be individually? And everything is monitored by our strength and conditioning group. Matt Nickel heading up that sports science department now. We've made some changes in there. It's all monitored, guys. It's all tracked on a regular basis by our group. They'll stop in. I was in Ottawa earlier this week, and a couple of guys, dropped in and coming in and out during the summer just to touch base. And now, as the clock turns over to August 1st, it literally is, there's a new anxiousness on August 1st. As the calendar flips, there is, as a player, there's kind of now you start saying, okay, who's in Ottawa? And, when are you coming back there? And who's going to be there when? And what are you doing? And how am I going to peak up? So all the work I've put in so far, I can use the next 5 to 6 weeks in a perfect manner. And our guys are all over that. Absolutely all over it.
Love that. Because I told Pillsy, I said the countdown to the countdown is on. So that's not getting ahead of myself. We're at that point now in the summer.
When that calendar flips over to August 1st, I can tell you, I had, what did I have? 13 of those. And I can remember those. Absolutely. You just looked at the calendar and said, we're close. We're closer.
Nice. I actually want to quickly get into this because, look, it's nothing against the previous regime, but it feels like something you guys have done here is build out a lot of guys who have played National Hockey League games from hiring Travis Green, lots of experience behind the bench, and obviously as a player, having Daniel Alfredson. Steve's played over 1,000 games. You've played over 725 games. Like, how important is that? Or where does the importance, like, where can you rely on that experience as a group when you guys have all played the game? Sam Gagner obviously included in that as well.
I think the most important thing there, Ross, is knowing what your lane is and when and where you can contribute. As much as I watch face-offs and learn, I'm not going down on the ice and teaching guys to take face-offs. I'm simply not. I might make a comment to a coach. I might watch something at the right time, but the coach is coach and the managers manage. And it's from like experiences, and that's what it is. And so in my years in hockey, and I would go back to 4 years as a college player, 13 years as a pro, a year in Europe as a pro. That will kick in sometimes an experience. Being an undrafted free agent, sometimes that'll kick in as an experience in a conversation. And that conversation may happen in a weight room, and may happen and did happen this week in a weight room with a player, who would be a pandemic player, if you will, drafted during the pandemic and developed through the pandemic, and it hasn't quite happened yet. And me explaining to him the patience. I mean, I came out of college with nothing, going to work for a company, Procter & Gamble, and all of a sudden I was in Europe for a year, and then April Fool's Day got called up to the NHL and never looked back. And so you relate an experience like that at the right time to a player to show that, hey, this isn't a straight arc. It's not, it doesn't go from point A to point B. And this pandemic group that are in the early 20s are still the most affected group of young professional athletes that we've had. Who's going to blossom out of that group? Who didn't play as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old or 19-year-old and now is going to, is there a guy down in Belleville or in our system who's going to say, holy smokes, I didn't click until I was 22 or 23 or 24, but this is what I am. And so being able to contribute an experience like that, an exact experience, is where the strength of our group has it. Because between the group of us, we've all experienced a lot of different things. And, so when something happens, a player has to be sent down, a player's available, a certain type of player is available, a player goes through a situation off the ice, chances are good in our management group and our coaching staff, we've experienced it. That's where it is. And
it's awesome.
It's the right time and place to lend that. It's not always. Sometimes you bite your tongue and you're like, okay, I've done that before, but it's not the right time to step up. And it's not. And you have to know that and have comfort in your own skin in knowing when to contribute and when not to.
Yeah, because I mean, even like Chris Neal's around the organization, Chris Phillips, you guys have over like 5,000 NHL games between the whole group of you guys in the front office. So it's exciting to see how you guys are moving the chess pieces around and making the tweaks that you feel will get the Senators to the next level. On that note, and one of maybe two final questions for me, but the first one is, with the way that you saw the season end, you mentioned you're excited to see who's coming to town, but is there a player or two that you're excited to see how they look after a full summer of training coming back with that playoff experience?
Probably too many to name, but the two new guys that joined us late in the year, Dylan Cousins and Zetterlund. I mean, Zetterlund was showing signs of being in the right place at the right time and driving to the right. And, and I remember doing games when I was at TSN when Fabian was looking like a force coming, and you saw a player like that in Jersey at that point ahead of San Jose. Those two in particular, but the group as a whole, it's exciting to watch. I mean, you think of a Ridley Gregg, who was pretty banged up during the playoffs and still played every night. And where's his game going to go? And where's his comfort level with Shane Pinto going to go? And does Michael Amadio still the piece that fits on that line? Yeah, and he's in Ottawa this summer and having a great summer physically. And you know what? And a player like Amadio might be an interesting one to look at. For the first time in a long time, he's settled in his career. He knows where he's going back to. He's got a nice term to his contract where he's raising a young family. They're going to be in one city, and he's choosing to stay in Ottawa during the summer. And those things are all important. I'm excited to watch Thomas Chabot and Jake Sanderson internally both grow. They play the same position, and you watch them both, and I think they both look at each other and say, okay, let's go. And, I've been back and forth with different guys over the course of the summer, just, to check in at whatever. And they're excited as a group. They really are, because the internal growth part is what we're relying on.
Final question for me, Pouly, and maybe you don't know this, and that's fair, but I want as many updates as I can get about this, and Sens fans really do. Any updates on the downtown arena? Have we gotten any further there? Do you know anything about this? Like, I think everyone's so excited just to hear about this progress moving on, hopefully, and taking another step. Can you fill us in on anything?
Shall we go back to stay in your lane conversation?
Hey, you said you're in every meeting, Pouly.
I still stay in my lane.
and that's fair. That's why I preface it. I'm the junior VP of operations here, Pouly. I'm still learning on the job.
Cyril Leader is, taking charge of that and has vast experience in the city of Ottawa and dealing with, different situations and different people. So we're in great hands there. Those are the types of things where they'll happen in time, and it'll be someone else's time frame, not mine and not Steve's. And so we really focus on what the hockey team is doing on a day-to-day basis. And I think when Travis came in last year, he didn't overwhelm the players with what he wanted to do, and he focused on the defensive side of things first. And his big expression was win the day. And we'll go right back to win the day. And, and whatever happens down the road, I think the excitement of where the Ottawa Senators are going as a hockey club, everyone is well aware of. And even to go around, and I stopped into your favorite establishment last week, and
GLEBE Central Pub.
GLEBE Central Pub, 779 Bank Street. Hey, you might run in to Dave Poulin at the GCP.
Just sitting casually having an order of wings, and had a nice chat with Blair. And
nice
excitement in the community, though.
It's awesome.
It really is. And wherever you go, and it's how should we call it, a respectful excitement. It really is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excited people about the direction.
Yeah.
I know season tickets have gone up considerably over the summer, and Brendan Duvall has done a great job with that group. And so we're excited about it. We're really excited about the direction we're going in. And I think the city of Ottawa is excited as well.
What kind of wings do you get?
Oh, okay.
I'm a medium guy.
Okay, that's good.
Very basic. I love a good order of wings.
Yeah, and the wings are good at the GCP. Pouly, if you need to accelerate the patience on building the arena, let Ross and I know. We'll bring our shovels.
Yeah, I'm on the point where just let me know when you need a shovel guy. I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll get the shovels out.
We'll do our part. Final question for me, Pouly. Really appreciate this. I'm always curious because we were sitting on the couch during draft night, so wow, whoa, can't believe this guy went there. I'm not going to ask you to tell me which players you're like, wow, but how many times did you say it before you guys got picked?
I think it followed pretty well to form. You have a pretty good, because you don't go by specific picks, you go by bandwidth.
Yeah.
And Matthew Schaefer was in a bandwidth by himself, and the next group of probably 3 or 4 were in a bandwidth. And so if in that bandwidth your fourth goes second, that's just personal flavor. I mean, you're going into Baskin and Robbins, and there's 31 flavors or whatever there are, and they're all pretty good, and how does that flavor fit with you? And so, whether you come out with chocolate or vanilla, you're going to come out with a pretty good offering. And so I think that certain teams have certain styles, so you do expect things. And I think there were some teams that were surprised that players were available there, but everybody's list is a little bit different. I mean, in the first round, after the first probably 8 to 10 picks, almost everybody below that is getting a pick higher than where they have them on their list.
Okay. How much would you sell us your draft rankings for? I want them so bad.
I don't have to sell them now.
Oh, come on.
But you do a player who was never drafted. So how does he look at draft rankings, right? And it used to be funny. They'd come in to me in Philadelphia and said, we think we got your replacement center. We took this kid, 10th overall. And I'd be going, great, bring him on. I'd have him over to the house for barbecue. And in camp and say, you're welcome to try and take my job, but you're not taking it.
Give him the fattiest piece of meat you got, eh, Pouly?
Yeah, extra cheese, mayo, bacon.
I always love when they talk about the hunger of these young draft picks. And I look around and I say, okay, he's got a wife, 3 kids. He's got kids in private school. He's hungry too to stay in the National Hockey League, and there's a reason he's played 600 games or 700 games or 1,000 games. So it's all good. Internal competition is great, guys, and we have it coming now. And some of the young draft picks that we have, and Belleville's going to be an exciting group under Matt Turek, and this is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, Pouly. Well, we appreciate your time and joining us. A 5-time recurring guest, a elusive group that is only achieved by very few, but we really appreciate it. Hey, from TSN, getting to know you there and now getting to see you really relish this opportunity here with the Ottawa Senators couldn't make us happier. So we appreciate you being a friend of the show, Pouly. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Hit them straight on the course. I know you like your coffees. Keep them nice and hot in your right hand, and we'll see you come training camp in Ottawa.
Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the summer, guys.
Stick taps to Pouly for joining us. What a great conversation. Just an awesome guy. I've said this time and time again. Always my favorite when we work together at TSN. So the fact that he's up doing his thing in Ottawa just makes me so happy, man. And to hear the behind the scenes of how everything works with trying to get trades and make things happen, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, Ross, we were chatting back and forth during the interview, and we were like, we're going about half an hour here. That's usually how we try to limit our interviews. Should we ask final questions here? And both of us are like, I guess so, but we got so much more we want to talk to Pouly about. Just an ultimate guy, just going on to the fact that the Ottawa Senators are not just hiring people that are good at their job, obviously, but that are just great people overall. Like, I remember when they hired Pouly and I got the notification on my phone, I was like, oh my God, this came out of nowhere, and what an amazing hire. So we can't thank him enough for giving us some time in his off season.
I guess I got to go on more trips because, I remember that too. I was on my way back from my honeymoon. And then when I was heading out on a vacation, was it last summer? Last summer, they announced the hirings of Sylvain Saint Laurent and Ian Mendes. So
I was in the airport at Dominican when Pouly got hired. So we got to do combined vacations to get big news.
Amazing. All right. Well, let's get to Wednesday's show. And the Ring of Honor this week continues. And the Ring of Honor is so much fun. If you missed any of them, we've actually got its own playlist on YouTube. So you can go watch. We've got 18 or 19 of them done so far, but we are just getting started topics-wise. We're not even close to running out. We got lots of great ones planned ahead. Going to have some other special guests. This week it'll be Martian. And then we're going to go back-to-back with new, never before been on the Ring of Honor guests, which either means they're going to be great or they're going to be awful, and maybe you'll have a chance to win one, Billsy.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
All right. Everyone have a great start to your week. We will be back here on Wednesday with an interview with a great Senators prospect. For today, we say goodbye. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.